What's up, guys? I pray you have a blessed day so far, and welcome to Living in Truth Ministries TV, where the focus is on finding the truth and living in it. Today, we are going to be talking about one of the biggest complaints or excuses that people bring up in order to deny the existence of God. One of the biggest complaints or excuses for people not wanting to believe in a God, which much less one like the Christian God, which claims to be so loving. They have suffered humiliation, tortured, and one of the most horrific deaths in history for us, aka the gospel story, is that evil things happen in this world. The reality that we live in a world where seemingly unjust pain and suffering, aka evil, exists, tends to make people ask several questions about God, if he exists. These questions are pointed out by Paul Gold, Travis Dickinson, and Keith Lofton in their works Stand Firm Apologetics and the Brilliance of the Gospel, with the following statement: the reality of pain and suffering, evil, raises at least three pressing questions for the Christian. First, does the reality of evil in the world show that God doesn't or probably doesn't exist? Many thoughtful people look at the distribution or amount of evil in the world and conclude on the basis that there is no God. Thus, our first challenge is to consider the strength of the case for atheism, given the existence of evil. Second, assuming that God does exist, why does he allow pain and suffering? Finally, how does one cope with the reality of evil? Pain and suffering is a true emphasis behind these questions that makes so many people abandon the idea of a God, much less a loving God that was willing to be humiliated, tortured, and killed for us. This comes from a form of logic that goes along the lines of, I can't believe there's a God out there that would allow all of these suffering. If there is such a God that would allow this evil, I want nothing to do with him because she/he clearly doesn't care about evil. But is such a conclusion truly good logic, given all the information provided? For example, does it look at the free will of man? Let's say that the world was perfect. So perfect that not even animals killed each other. There was no evil in this world. Nothing could be seen as suffering or pain whatsoever. And then came man with the greatest privilege that God has given to any creation called free will, or the ability to choose one path. And it shows the path of sin, which is vile and evil by nature. What would occur to such a world as sin, especially if, like it is mentioned in Genesis 1, chapter 1, verses 26 to 28, said man who follows evil by their will has dominion over the perfect world, and by doing evil, they corrupted what they had dominion over, making it now vile and evil and capable of so much suffering and evil in the world. Would this not be a reasonable conclusion to the information provided as why pain and suffering exist? This is what some call the free will defense. According to Alvin Plantinga, in the work A Free Will Defense in Christian Apologetics, an anthology of primary sources, a good way to define the so-called free will defense is as follows: a world containing creatures who are significantly free and freely perform more good than evil actions is more valuable, all else being equal, than a world containing no free creatures at all. Now, God can create free creatures, but he can't cause or determine them to do only what is right. For he does so, then they are significantly free after all. They do not do what is right freely. To create creatures capable of moral good, therefore, he must create creatures capable of moral evil. And he can't give these creatures the freedom to perform evil and at the same time prevent them from doing so. As it turned out, sadly enough, some of the free creatures God created went wrong in the exercise of their freedom. This is the source of moral evil. The fact that free creatures sometimes go wrong, however, counts neither against God's omnipotence nor against his goodness. For he could have forestalled the occurrence of moral evil only by removing the possibility of moral good. Simply put, it is not that God cannot remove evil, nor that he has allowed it, but rather he has permitted mankind to do evil in order to create creatures that are truly capable of moral good. Of course, this does not mean that he will not punish those creatures that have freely chosen more evil, as one can see from the book of Revelations, where he punishes, he comes and judges those who have done evil. As such, one cannot say that a God does not exist because evil exists. Such a conclusion attempts to ignore searching for the answer of what is the source of evil and is blindsided by the suffering that evil produces. Now, of course, as with anything else argued in this world, there are objections to the free will defense, and every defense that attempts to explain why evil exists. However, each one of the arguments tend to be fundamentally logically flawed. For example, two main objections of free will defense are God is able to create free agents and that do no evil. And the second is like it, which goes along the lines of an all-powerful God has the ability to prevent your free agents to have the opportunity to do evil. Both of these ignore the point of free will. The suggestion can be crudely described as God creating a world that is basically a nice prison where a free individual can't do all things but are free to choose what to do. A prisoner is free to choose what they can do within their confined space, but they don't have access to do everything. If one is raised in such an environment, how could they be truly free and able to choose good? It is simply impossible for one to know what is evil and good and what good is without the existence of both. In reality, the argument is logically flawed in an attempt to avoid the issue. The attempt to avoid this issue is because one who attempts to remove God from the picture because of suffering is one that's overwhelmed by a single piece of information, and that is the feeling of pain. It is often one's heart becomes the greatest obstacle for one to find the truth behind something. It has been multiple times in history where an individual doesn't want to believe what is going to happen or what has happened, even though the truth is before them because of suffering. So much so that one of the stages of grief is denial. Oftentimes, when we lose the greatest things in our lives, when we lose someone we love or we lose something we really care about, we deny that it's gone forever because we want to avoid suffering. It is for this reason that Jeremiah 17:9 states the following: the heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. Who can understand it? The truth of the matter is that those who suffer of this pain run from that which can save them from their pain and suffering. Yet God knows their suffering and has gone through said suffering as well. He knows it well. He knows pain and suffering well. In fact, Isaiah 53 states, 53:3 states, he was despised and rejected by mankind, a man of suffering and familiar with pain. Like one from whom people hide their faces, he was despised, and we held him in low esteem. And John 16:33 states, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. God is through whom we can find peace amidst the suffering that we go through because he has overcome it. It's through him that we can find joy even in the worst of situations. It is only through him that we may overcome our temporary suffering so that we may find eternal joy in him. Now, if you're this person that's suffering, this person that's struggling with pain in your life, know that God is the source. And if you're interested, I have a video specifically on finding the source of joy and how we can live a joyful life with Christ. It is only through him who has overcome this world, who is all powerful, who is beyond understanding, that this world cannot stop, that we can find peace and joy in the worst of situations. so that we can overcome this temporary suffering that we go through in this world and have an eternal time of joy and peace with him. Now, thank you guys for watching this video. If you like the content in this video, please like and subscribe to the channel. If there is any questions that you may have regarding truth, please leave a comment down below. Have a wonderful and blessed day, guys.